Hello everyone and welcome back to my 6-part series all about teaching English online with Italki, which is specifically aimed at those of you considering becoming a digital nomad, working remotely, working online, travelling full-time and earning money while you do so, which is what I do. Now, if you are new to this channel or indeed this series, I would strongly recommend checking out the playlist which is located up above in the card and also in the description down below. Additionally, you might want to consider subscribing because then you can capture my subsequent videos on this subject. So let's get going with episode number 2. So in the last video we talked about availability and scheduling. So let's assume you've done all that, you set up your profile, you know exactly when you're going to be available and your time zones are all correct. We're going to move on to the very complicated subject, potentially complicated subject of pricing. Now, this issue is a veritable minefield when it comes to beginning your teaching journey on Italki. Where do you even start? Because with Italki you can set your own pricing, which is different from many other teaching platforms such as Dada ABC or VIP Kid, where you agree on a salary or an hourly rate, that kind of thing. There are many things to consider. Firstly, you need to think about what kind of teacher you are. So are you a professional teacher or a community tutor? More than likely, a professional teacher will have some kind of qualification or teaching certification. For example, 120-hour TEFL, which I have. So potentially you may be able to set your price at a higher rate in comparison to a community tutor. On the other hand, if you're a community tutor, yeah, you might not have a teaching qualification. However, you might have 20 years of teaching experience in a classroom, in some kind of environment. You might have been a teaching assistant, you might have volunteered in Vietnam for 10 years teaching children. You know, every person's situation is different and everyone has a different level of experience. You may have teachers, professional teachers with a qualification that don't have any experience. So, you know, there isn't a black and white, hard and fast rule in terms of pricing. You have to very much consider your own situation and experience and qualifications. One thing you can do to help yourself when starting off, to give yourself a guide, an emphasis on the word guide, is by looking at what other teachers are charging on Italki. However, if you're looking at someone that has maybe completed 5,000 lessons at hand and has a list of reviews as long as your arm and has numerous qualifications and experience, but you're in a completely different position, you know, it wouldn't be the right thing to do to charge the same as them. Instead, maybe look at people that are in exactly the same position as you, people that are just starting on Italki, that have completed no lessons whatsoever, have no reviews, maybe have little experience or a similar level of experience to you and a similar qualification. Potentially you could use that as a guide, but as I said, it's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes those people may be charging a lot less. They may be in a country with a very low cost of living, as I'm in right now. Potentially you may have people living in countries such as the US, the UK, Australia, where the cost of living is significantly higher. As a result, they need to charge more. On the subject of cost of living, you need to think about this in a bit more detail additionally. So think about your own cost of living and then think about the cost of living of the people that you will potentially be teaching. So as I said in the previous video, a large percentage of my students are in Russia. You know, when I think about the currency in Russia in comparison with the US dollar or the British pound, the value is considerably less. So potentially those people in Russia may not be able to afford an excessive amount for a lesson in comparison to someone maybe in China or somewhere with a stronger economy. So have a think about that. You know, the worst thing that can happen is if you set your price way too high and then you're sitting there thinking, why am I not getting any students? That's probably the reason, because the people that are in those countries where there is an extreme market for learning English simply can't afford those unrealistic prices that you're setting. Next up, we're going to talk about a very important subject which I talked about briefly in my top 10 tips for starting an Italki video, which is all about penetration pricing. So for those of you that know anything about the business world, you'll know that penetration pricing is a term used to describe when a business starts up or begins operation and they set their prices initially very low to attract and entice customers and hopefully gain loyalty. In our case, we're talking about attracting and enticing students and hopefully generating a loyal base of long-term students going forward. So when I started, I began charging $10 an hour. And I gradually increased this over time. And what this enabled me to do, it enabled me to do exactly that, to build a loyal base of students, which meant in terms of stability and ensuring that I had a regular income each month, it really worked. Yes, that income was relatively low to begin with, and I did have to work a lot. I'm talking 35, 40 hours a week in terms of lessons, just to earn a sufficient amount. However, it really does work, so I would recommend starting off low and building your price as you go. In terms of increasing your price, this is an extremely contentious issue among teachers. So when do you do it? Do you inform your students when you're about to increase your price? In relation to the first point, it's up to you. What I did was I increased my price once a month for the first 6 months, and then I've pretty much left it since then. I am planning an increase for the new year. In terms of informing your students, I think, in my opinion, it's common courtesy to inform your students in advance that prices will be increasing, just to give them a bit of an idea in terms of preparing. And if they are really loyal to you, they'll want to stay with you regardless of a price increase. But it's common courtesy to inform them that potentially next month they may be paying a little bit more for lessons. And the final point in relation to pricing is a very important one, and to be honest with you, it's been the point which has been most beneficial to me, and that's all about packages. Okay, so on Italki you have the facility to create packages, 5-lesson package, 10-lesson package, relating to a specific topic. For example, I have conversational English, speaking, reading, writing and listening, business English, for example, dependent on your specialities or whatever you want to do. And one of the great things that this does is that it generates loyalty, it promotes loyalty among your students. So when you have a trial lesson, which we're going to go on to in the next video, or just a first lesson, you can talk about packages and encourage them to book a 5-lesson package. That way that they're going to be with you for those 5 lessons, and potentially they might book another package after that. One of the benefits for a student of booking a package is getting a discount. So basically I set my packages as an 8% discount. So if they were to book individual lessons, they would get charged X amount, but by booking a package and booking ahead, they can have an 8% discount. So it's a benefit for them. One other thing in relation to booking packages is that they can plan ahead. So if you are getting to a point where you're a particularly popular teacher and the next few weeks are absolutely chock-a-block with lessons, encourage your students to book packages and book ahead. I appreciate that not every student can do that due to financial reasons or general life commitments, but many of mine do, and it means that they can get the time that they actually want, rather than stressing, messaging me on a Friday and saying, "Oh, David, I need a lesson on Sunday," but everything is full, so booking a package helps someone book ahead. And the last point is a great tip that I've put in place that has really helped me, again, continue that loyalty from the beginning. So I have many students with me that I've been teaching since the beginning, a year ago, and obviously my prices increased. So one thing that I did in order to keep them was to create a separate package called Long-Term Students Discount, and that rate is basically one of my original rates. I think it's about $12 at the moment, and it allows those long-term students to continue with me on that old price. Okay. And I only make that available to students after 10 lessons, and it clearly says that in the package. So if a student does accidentally book that long-term student discount after 1 lesson, then you just need to be aware and explain to them that, look, you can only get this after 10 lessons. So that's the video all about pricing, done and dusted. Next time we're going to move on to actual lessons, and we're going to talk about trial lessons. Before you go, why not hit that like button, and also leave me a comment down below. So if you're a teacher on Italki or you're just getting started, what's your experience with pricing? Have you got anything else to add that I haven't mentioned in this video to help out other viewers? Thanks very much. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Catch you later.